Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Right now on Morning News Now, remembering George Floyd. Today marks 1 year since his death at the hands of a Minneapolis police officer. In the wake of his killing, a massive international social justice movement was formed. We're live in Minneapolis with how residents, the country, and the world are marking this day. Support for peace. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Israel earlier this morning for a tour of the Middle East aimed at bolstering the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Inside his meeting with top Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Netanyahu. Turbulent skies. The FAA is now weighing some heavy fines for unruly passengers accused of interfering with and, in some cases, assaulting flight attendants. The troubling uptick in mid-air mayhem amid the FAA's zero-tolerance policy. And pay to play. Influencers looking to cash in on social media are now making big money by handing over control to fans. We'll dive deeper into the world of the human stock market. That is quite a story, and happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you.
Got a little bit of matching going on.
A little bit of matching. I didn't wear my hair braid today, but
you didn't. Oh, why not? Tomorrow. All right, we start with that anniversary. 1 year ago today, George Floyd was murdered by a police officer on a Minneapolis street.
The bystander video of Floyd's death was seen around the world, sparking a racial justice reckoning and a movement for police reform. Today, his family will meet with President Biden, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and senators from both parties as lawmakers continue to negotiate the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster joins us now from Minneapolis. Now, Shaq, I know we're hearing from Floyd's family. What are they saying about this day, and what do they hope to achieve during their visit with lawmakers?
Well, yeah, we expect to see them walking through Washington, D.C., the halls of Congress, and also visiting the White House today. And while it's very clear that for them it will be a day of purpose, trying to put pressure on Congress and political leaders to pass that George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, that police reform legislation that they've been calling for months now, it's also very clear that today will be a day of pain for them as they're reminded of what exactly they lost 1 year ago this evening. My colleague Gabe Gutierrez spoke to some of the family members just yesterday. Listen to a little bit of his conversation with them.
Our hearts are still broken because we'll never have him again to be able to hug us or to talk to us. But we're optimistic that some things have changed as a result of his death.
Are you frustrated that Congress hasn't acted quicker?
It's a little discouraging for sure, but delayed is not denied. So we will continue pushing forward, and we'll be continuing to hold people accountable until we get that bill signed.
Are you pleased that you're going to visit the White House, or are you disappointed that you're going there without that police reform bill being signed into law? And what do you plan on telling the president?
We would rather that they have the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act being signed by President Biden on the 1 year anniversary, but we don't want this symbolic gesture of just signing anything without it having meaningful reform.
Now, President Biden did set today as the day that he wanted that police reform legislation passed. That is not happening. But again, today is about keeping the pressure on Congress as those bipartisan negotiations are underway. Joe.
Now, Shaq, I know you spoke with some community members at a march there in Minneapolis. What did they say about how this last year has impacted them?
That's right. We've seen 3 days now of commemorations honoring the life and legacy of George Floyd. And for so many people, it's not just about George Floyd. They're putting this in the grander picture of what they want out of police reform, what they call police violence. Listen to some of my conversations at a march that was held on the first day of commemorations. Tell me, 1 year since George Floyd was killed, what are you thinking? How are you processing this?
It still is really heavy every time I'm out here. I just try to show up. When I show up, it makes me feel most like at peace with what's going on. It makes me feel like I'm going to be part of the change. I'm happy with the conviction. I'm not totally satisfied. We're trying to fight for human rights, and it's literally the bare minimum that we're asking for. So satisfied would mean that I'm being awarded something or that I'm happy, and that's not where I'm at.
That was a message that you heard from several other people who were there. Again, we're going to see more commemorations take place today, but this is now day 3 of what the George Floyd Memorial Foundation has called a week of remembrance for George Floyd.
Yeah, what else, Shaq, can we expect to see today as Minneapolis honors this day?
Well, you may see some of the setup in the distance behind me, but here in downtown Minneapolis, there'll be a celebration of life, as they're calling it. You'll see performances, you'll see art. There's bouncy houses in the distance over there. Not only here in downtown, but you go to George Floyd Square, the exact intersection where he was murdered a year ago. There'll also be some events there, a block party vibe, as it was described to me. It's very clear when you talk to community members, when you talk to people who have been dealing with this for the past year, there has been a lot that has changed here in Minneapolis, and they're really trying to honor that. Celebrate that, but also keep the pressure on the leaders to not just sit with what has been accomplished so far, but they want to continue to pressure them to enact that change that they've been calling for so long.
All right, Shaquille Brewster starting us off in Minneapolis. Shaq, thanks so much.
In the past few hours, Secretary of State Antony Blinken has reaffirmed U.S. support for Israel and vowed to tackle the humanitarian crisis in Gaza after holding talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on day 1 of his Middle East tour. NBC News foreign correspondent Kelly Kobeya is in Tel Aviv for us now. Kelly, good morning. So what more can you tell us about today's meeting between Secretary Blinken and Netanyahu?
Savannah, good morning to you. That they met for about an hour and a half. Secretary Blinken calling those conversations good and lengthy. He said that the U.S. reaffirmed its support for Israel's right to defend itself, said that the U.S. would be helping to replenish Israel's Iron Dome defense system, that system that stopped some 90% of missiles, of rockets coming in from Gaza toward Israel, but also how to shore up this ceasefire, in part reducing tensions in East Jerusalem and the West Bank, and also addressing the situation in Gaza. Take a listen.
We know that to prevent a return to violence, we have to use the space created to address a larger set of underlying issues and challenges. And that begins with tackling the grave humanitarian situation in Gaza and starting to rebuild. The United States will work to rally international support around that effort, while also making our own significant contributions, including some that I'll announce later today. We'll work with our partners closely with all to ensure that Hamas does not benefit from the reconstruction assistance.
Prime Minister Netanyahu also bringing up the Iranian nuclear deal, saying that Israel is opposed to rejoining it. Secretary Blinken said that Israel would be kept informed on those discussions. Savannah?
And Kelly, while you've been there, I know that you've also been reporting on many of these fragile, delicate, complicated relationships. I know you visited the mixed Arab-Jewish town of Lod, which was the scene of intercommunal violence. What's the mood there like now?
Well, it's still tense, Savannah. I mean, people have said we're committed to a life of coexistence and we want things to be peaceful again. But we spoke to a Jewish mom and teacher who says she's now afraid to ride her bike to work. Take a listen.
I used to go by bike to school. No worries, no fear whatsoever.
And now that's gone.
Forget it. No way.
Why is that?
I don't trust anyone now. The trust is gone. I don't know who is out to kill me, who is going to throw a rock into my car window.
Because you're Jewish.
Because I'm Jewish. And it's a terrible feeling because this is my home.
And she lived in that neighborhood for 16 years. She says she's never experienced tensions like this. Savannah?
And Kelly, Arabs living in Israel are calling for equal rights and better treatment. What have you been hearing from them?
Yeah, just a completely different perspective from people who are Palestinian, who live in that same town of Lod. We spoke to a man who is an artist and a father of two, and he said that he felt afraid for his life and that he wouldn't be protected when that violence broke out because Palestinians, he says, are treated differently from Jewish families. Listen to what he said.
I'm staying here in my house with two kids. I'm unarmed. Illegally, I'm not supposed to be armed. I'm not armed. And outside, I have hundreds or tens of settlers screaming death to the Arabs, armed with short Uzis, and the police are protecting them.
Just some of the much deeper issues, the deeper fissures that will have to be addressed once the parties start looking at a longer term peace. Savannah.
All right, Kelly, thank you so much. A previously undisclosed U.S. intelligence report is prompting new questions about the origins of the coronavirus in China. The report identifies 3 researchers from the Wuhan Institute of Virology who got sick with COVID-19 symptoms in November 2019. NBC News national security correspondent Ken Delanian joins us now. Ken, good morning. So first, just what are you learning about this report and what happened with these researchers?
Good morning, Savannah. Important context here. Back in January, the State Department put out a fact sheet saying that the U.S. government had learned that several researchers from the lab in Wuhan had been struck ill with COVID-like symptoms. At the time, that fact sheet was discounted by some because it was put out by the Trump administration, which was really stressing this Wuhan lab theory. But it was actually based on intelligence. And what we've now learned is that a specific U.S. intelligence report identifies 3 researchers from the Wuhan Institute of Virology who sought treatment at a hospital in November 2019, just before the pandemic sort of exploded in Wuhan. And what this is doing is raising further questions. There are many already about whether it's possible that the COVID-19 virus emerged accidentally from the lab there, as opposed to the other theory, which is animal to human transmission, Savannah.
And now, Ken, so we know U.S. intelligence agencies have not ruled out the possibility that the virus spread because of a lab accident. Obviously, this report helps bolster that theory potentially. But China did take part in the World Health Organization's investigation into the virus earlier this year, and they found that that might not be likely. Tell us again about that report, why it might be different than this report, and then kind of what that means, what is going on with the World Health Organization.
Yeah, so the WHO has taken a lot of criticism for its initial statements and that initial report when it visited China and did this investigation. And basically, several scientists came out and said, not only do we not believe the lab theory, but it doesn't merit further investigation. Well, the head of the WHO almost immediately denounced that conclusion and said that was wrong and said it should be investigated. And the WHO has now sort of amended its position to say that it acknowledges that there needs to be more investigation, because the bottom line about that WHO investigation in China, Savannah, is that they were not granted access to crucial information, key documents and data from the lab, unfettered access to researchers. And the U.S. government has consistently said that China has not been transparent. I should add that China, of course, disputes that it's possible that this virus emerged accidentally from the lab. And the scientist who ran that lab said that that is not possible, Savannah.
All right. Well, I'm sure that's something that you'll stay on for us. And Ken, while I have you, switch gears real quick, I also want to ask you about a memo just released from the Justice Department used to justify not charging former President Trump with obstruction. What does it say?
Actually, Savannah, most of the memo still has not been released. The Justice Department is appealing a judge's order that it all should be released. The small part that we saw last night, essentially, it showed that the Justice Department lawyers concluded that since Robert Mueller didn't even reach a conclusion about whether Donald Trump could be charged with obstruction of justice, that the DOJ had an obligation to essentially clear him and say that no charges were merited. Now, that's obviously a hotly debated topic, and we don't know what the rest of the memo says, so there'll be some litigation as to whether we'll ever see that. But this all goes to the question of what William Barr did in making a conclusion that Donald Trump was exonerated on the question of obstruction of justice, when in fact the Mueller report never did that, Savannah.
All right, Ken, 2 things you'll stay on for us. Thank you so much for your reporting this morning.
The White House is taking a new approach, hoping to convince more young people to get the coronavirus vaccine. Besides those free Uber rides and new features on dating apps for vaccinated users, the Biden administration is speaking directly to young people on social media. President Biden and Dr. Anthony Fauci held a YouTube town hall yesterday, answering questions from several young influencers. Health experts say young people need to get the shot so the U.S. can reach herd immunity. Right now, nearly 40% of all Americans are fully vaccinated, which means the majority of the population is still not protected against COVID. NBC News health and medical reporter Erica Edwards joins us now. So, Erica, let's start with that town hall. What kind of questions and concerns were these young people asking?
Hey, Joe, good morning. Well, you know, one of those influencers asked President Biden what one beauty product he would take to a desert island. He correctly answered sunscreen, by the way. But, you know, most of the questions were actually quite serious. Is the vaccine safe? Why should otherwise healthy young people get the vaccine? And also whether there would be any vaccine passports required. Here's what they had to say.
Young children, even though when they get infected, it's unlikely that they would have a serious disease compared to an elderly person or a person who has an underlying condition, they are not exempt from getting serious illness. There's also the responsibility that you have of not being part of spreading the infection throughout the community.
I talk about it in terms of teaching about obligation to other people. It's not just about them. It's an obligation they have to their friends and other people.
Now, those YouTube influencers, some of them are beauty influencers. Others talk about wilderness and endangered animals. They have a combined viewership of 27 million people. Certainly, reaching those young adults was key for President Biden and Dr. Fauci. Joe?
Yeah, they can reach a lot of people that way. Let's talk about masks, Erica. Several states relaxed their mask mandates, including here in New York. But for the past week, neighboring New Jersey kept its indoor mask rules in place. That's changing now. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's right. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy has announced that as of this Friday, the state is lifting its indoor mask mandates and easing up on social distancing rules for fully vaccinated people. Now, there are some caveats. Of course, masks will still be required in places with vulnerable people, like hospitals, childcare centers, and nursing homes. Also, as of June 4th, a week from this Friday, capacity limits will be lifted on indoor and outdoor venues, including MetLife Stadium. Certainly welcome news for football fans. Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. And Erica, we can't forget India is still experiencing the worst of the virus right now, struggling with the deadly variant there. Now, new research shows how vaccines are working against that specific strain. What are scientists learning?
Yeah, this was a study out of the UK. It found that the Pfizer vaccine appears to be about 88% effective against that strain first identified in India, and the AstraZeneca vaccine was about 60% effective. Now, here's the key. It took both of doses of each of those vaccines to achieve that full protection. Just one dose of either vaccine only led to about 33% efficacy. That's why they really are pushing both doses specific to that strain first identified in India. Joe?
All right, Erica, thank you so much. Let's get a check on your morning news now weather.
Which means it's time for Bill Cairns to join us. Hey, Bill.
Hey, good morning, guys. So we're going to head through about a 3-day stretch here with some severe weather threats. I don't know if we're going to have any huge tornado outbreaks, but we will see some tornadoes over the next couple of days. So let me give you the specifics, show you who's at risk. First, we're waking up this morning to thunderstorms already in areas of Oklahoma and Texas, and this is going to kind of be the theme. This is going to be coming to the target area. Right now, in Dallas and Fort Worth, you're clear, but I'd say in about 2 to 3 hours from now, that line of thunderstorms to your west may try to reach you. Also, some of that heavy rain towards McAllister. So for today, there's not a lot of areas under severe weather threat today. Northern Wisconsin, a little section there, the upper peninsula of Michigan, also western Texas and western Oklahoma up towards Wichita. And again, not too many tornadoes. So for today's forecast, today's a pretty nice day. It's as gorgeous as it gets from D.C. northwards up through New England. Enjoy it while it lasts. Still pretty hot in the southeast. The cool spot on the map is the northwest, where we will see a few showers and storms in areas like Boise, and 100 today in Phoenix. So now let's talk about the active severe weather. We have 2 large areas tomorrow. One is going to be in the northeast, so it's going to be a hot, humid day. Then thunderstorms are going to come through as some of that cooler air begins to arrive. So watch out. Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Cleveland, to Albany, to Syracuse, Rochester, just north of New York City. And then a big bullseye out in areas of Kansas into the plains of Nebraska. That's where we could see some tornadoes. So for tomorrow's forecast, and look at these temperatures, 92. Actually, 90s go all the way from North Florida into southern New England tomorrow. Easily the warmest day of the summer season so far in New York City, up through areas like Hartford and Providence, and all the way through Rhode Island. And then as we look southwards, temperatures in the 90s. There's the thunderstorm threat tomorrow. And then as we head into Thursday, that's when I actually think if we're going to get a tornado outbreak this week, it'll likely be Thursday afternoon. We're heading right into Tornado Alley from areas from Oklahoma City to Tulsa to Springfield, just south of Kansas City towards Columbia and into St. Louis. So again, this is Thursday, just kind of a heads up for anyone with extended plans coming up, guys. And, May is our peak month for tornadoes. But we haven't been talking about too many horrific tornado outbreaks that have destroyed houses and homes and fatalities. Let's hope we can get through the next couple of days and knock on wood.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that's at least some good news. Good to hear.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Bill. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Coming up, trouble is on the rise in the friendly skies as the pandemic begins to fade.
The major fines the FAA is now proposing for some unruly passengers up next. Texas is poised to remove one of its last firearms restrictions and allow people to carry handguns without a license. The Republican-dominated state legislature passed a bill Monday that would allow anyone 21 and older to carry a handgun as long as they haven't been convicted of a violent crime. But the background check that would catch a crime would disappear under the new plans because that background check is part of the licensing process no longer required. Governor Greg Abbott has said he will sign the bill. The state already allows rifles to be carried in public without a license. Proponents of the bill say it gives people the opportunity to defend themselves. Local law enforcement groups and gun control groups say it could endanger the public and police.
This year, the friendly skies have experienced some turbulence with a huge spike in unruly passengers. In fact, for 5 of those passengers, the FAA is now proposing fines ranging from $9,000 to $15,000 each. The incidents in question include refusing to wear a mask, even assaulting crew members. This month alone, the FAA has doled out more than $250,000 in fines for unruly and dangerous behavior. These fines are part of the agency's zero tolerance policy. NBC News correspondent Cal Perry joins us now from Reagan National Airport. So, Cal, a few of these people face fines up to $15,000 each. What can you tell us about some of these incidents?
Yeah, these incidents, the latest, and we've seen the FAA roll out these every single week. As you said, more than $250,000 of fines this month alone. These 5, very emblematic of the problem that we're seeing across the country. At least 2 of the incidents involved alcohol. One of them involved bringing alcohol on a plane. It's something that industry insiders say is an ongoing problem. 3 of the incidents involved masks. We are seeing repeated incidents where people are refusing to wear the masks or engaging with the flight attendants over masks. That seems to be leading to what we've seen as an epidemic, more than 2,500 of these incidents since the beginning of the year, Joe.
Yeah, so Cal, we did the math. Compared to an average year, 2021 has basically seen a 2,400% increase in these incidents. And keep in mind, the beginning of the year, not that many people were flying. Can you tell us more about this zero tolerance policy the FAA has in place?
Yeah, this was a policy that was supposed to expire in March. It has now been extended indefinitely. And as you say, we're sort of down about 30% year over 2019 figures. We can't do year over year figures, of course, but year over 2019 figures still down about 30% on passenger level. The load level, that is how many people are getting on the planes, is about 81%, which is almost what it was pre-pandemic. People think maybe stress is adding to it, but the numbers are really pretty shocking. 2,500 since the beginning of the year. That's 500 incidents a month. We are used to seeing between 150 to 200 incidents a year. So it is certainly bad right now in the skies, Joe.
And Cal, what can airline crews do in these situations? These are hard situations to handle. How are they able to handle these passengers?
The easy answer is it depends on the incident. We've got some video of a fist fight in the airport in Miami. When it's something that serious, of course, the airline industry folks are just going to reach out to law enforcement. It is worth reminding everybody, if you put your hands on a flight attendant, that is assault. They will just contact law enforcement, return the flight to the gate. That is one of the reasons we're seeing sort of delays when you have these incidents, Joe.
All right. Cal Perry, hopefully people get the message to wear those masks on the planes and maybe not drink so much. Thanks so much.
Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a controversial bill to stop social media companies from banning political candidates. The new law will fine tech companies up to $250,000 a day for suspending or banning accounts of people running for office. Under the law, companies would only be allowed to ban candidates for 14 days or remove individual posts that violate terms of service. Governor DeSantis says the new law takes on, quote, Silicon Valley elites who censor conservative views. This is despite research that shows conservative pages tend to get the most traffic on Facebook.
There's growing outrage over an extraordinary act in the skies over Europe. Authorities in Belarus forced down a passenger plane to arrest a well-known journalist and critic of the president there. In a statement on Monday, President Biden called it a direct affront to international norms and condemned the action as an outrageous incident. NBC News foreign correspondent Sarah Harmon has more.
It's being called a state-sponsored hijacking. This commercial Ryanair flight from Greece to Lithuania forced to land while flying over Belarus. Belarusian authorities at first claimed there was a bomb threat. Sniffer dogs on the tarmac.
We just change the direction of flight and we go down and then to the left.
But there wasn't a bomb. Instead, it appears to be a brazen operation by the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko. Branded Europe's last dictator by protesters, a staunch ally of President Putin. His target, one of his sharpest critics, 26-year-old journalist Roman Protasevich, who was on board. During the emergency landing, eyewitnesses say he panicked.
Trying to split the things, like computer, gave it to a girlfriend.
The plane eventually continued to Lithuania without the journalist or his girlfriend on board. Now, opposition leaders are fearful.
I'm sure that he's being tortured because he knows a lot of information.
The U.S. is now calling for an international investigation, and the EU has agreed on sanctions, banning Belarusian airlines from EU airports and telling European airlines to stop flying over Belarus. Joe, Savannah?
Let's take a look at what else is making news around the world this morning.
Raf Sanchez joins us today from London. Hey, Raf, good morning.
Savannah, Joe, good morning. Just weeks before the start of the Tokyo Olympics, the U.S. issuing a new travel warning for Japan. The CDC says COVID numbers are so high that Americans should, quote, avoid all travel to the country. Now, despite the warning, U.S. Olympic officials say they're confident American athletes can compete in the Games safely. In Congo, families are surveying the damage after an eruption of Mount Nyiragongo, one of the world's most active volcanoes. Over the weekend, a wall of lava sparked panic as it swept towards the city of Goma, home to around 2 million people. The lava flow stopped just short of the city itself, but it engulfed thousands of homes and killed 32 people. And finally, a rare albino wallaby has been born at a zoo in Russia. Zoo workers have named her Alisa. She's in good health and attracting a lot of attention from visitors. Super cute. And guys, at that age, wallabies, their feet are already basically fully grown, but their bodies haven't quite caught up.
Oh,
wow.
That's funny. That's a fun fact.
I mean, they have good balance or bad balance? Yeah. I'm not sure.
It's like a puppy when they have those huge paws and you know they're going to get big. Thanks, Raf. Coming up on the year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, policing practices have been thrust back into the spotlight.
Namely, the use of restraints. NBC News investigates the sometimes deadly tactic. That's up next. What items would you save to remind yourself and the rest of the world about what it was like living through the coronavirus pandemic? Well, an elementary school class in Tennessee has buried its own pandemic time capsule. Fifth grade students from Amherst Elementary School in Knoxville gathered items like face masks, face shields, hand sanitizer, a thermometer, and social distancing markers. They also include drawings and journal entries from the past year. The class plans to reunite in 25 years to dig up and open the time capsule. What an interesting idea. I kind of already want to see what it's going to be like 25 years from now when they're remembering all of that.
Yeah, I kind of think I don't need one of those. I don't need to go
or maybe we just bury it and never, never dig it up.
Bury it and that's it. There's no reunion for that.
That's a good idea, too. We should work on that.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
The murder of George Floyd sparked fresh scrutiny of police restraint practices. An NBC News investigation with the Marshall Project has found their use has sometimes been deadly. NBC News correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us now from Minneapolis. Gabe, what more can you tell us about this?
Hi, Savannah. Good morning. Well, we're here in Minneapolis as several remembrances are planned to commemorate the 1 year since George Floyd's murder here at what's become known as George Floyd Square. But as you mentioned, this is all causing greater scrutiny of police restraint tactics. And among the more controversial methods are what's known as a hog tie or a hobble. And we should warn you, some of the videos in this story are disturbing. This body camera video shows the tense moments that still haunt Vanessa Peoples. How often do you think about what happened?
Every day. In
2017, police in Aurora, Colorado came to her home with a social worker for a child welfare check. The encounter escalated quickly.
I don't have to stay back. Stay back. The next thing I knew, they threw me down on the ground and they had my arm behind my back. And I kept telling him, I said, there's something wrong. My arm doesn't feel right. It hurts. And he had his knee in my back. And it was like, at that moment, I felt like I was going to lose my life.
The device officers use to restrain her is known as a hobble and involves tying a person's hands and feet behind their back while on their stomach. An analysis of data NBC News obtained found she's one of roughly 350 people who've been hobbled by the Aurora Police Department in the last 5 years. Police say it is used on the most aggressive people.
I wasn't treated like a human being.
When fastening the feet and hands together, the method is called a hog tie. Around the country since 2010, NBC News has identified at least 23 people who have died following a hog tie or hobble.
Imagine your closest sibling looking at them die.
Kimberly Smith says her brother Marcus was in crisis and seeking help from the police.
Tell me where you want to go first.
This video from 2018 shows the last moments of his life.
We'll help you, but you got to chill out.
He's unarmed as he approaches police outside a music festival in Greensboro, North Carolina. Police cuff and hog tie him so tightly his knees are off the ground. He stops breathing and later dies. The next morning, in a press release, police said Smith had collapsed in custody and that officers rendered aid. The autopsy declared the death a homicide. No police were charged. In a response to a suit by Smith's family, the city says the restraint was appropriate in light of the safety risk he posed to himself and others.
I had no idea what a hog tie was. I had no clue. That's how you treat an animal.
As for Vanessa Peoples, who was restrained and survived, the city settled her case for $100,000.
I know that she was injured, which is what we want to completely avoid in cases when we use the hobble or any restraint system.
Chief Vanessa Wilson makes a clear distinction between a hobble, shown here, and a hog tie. But Aurora police did not have a policy banning the hog tie until 2019.
The hog tie is absolutely not safe.
Is the hobble method safe?
It is safe, but I want to do better.
Her department is now trying out a different kind of restraint, using what's known as a wrap device, demonstrated here. Most importantly, the person is upright.
It's a better way of dealing with individuals that are in crisis and that are agitated.
But for Vanessa Peoples, the updated training comes too late.
I have to walk around every day knowing that it happened and there's really nothing that I could do but just live with it.
Now, around the country, many departments do not track the use of the hobble device or when it's used as a hog tie in their use of force data. So it is hard to know exactly how prevalent this is. Go on, Savannah.
Gabe, thanks so much.
Coming up, the frightening rise in eating disorders over the last year of COVID.
Why one doctor is calling the trend a second pandemic. Up next.
If you've been sneezing a lot lately, you are not alone. Americans are starting to take off those masks in what's setting up to be a bad year for pollen sufferers. NBC News correspondent Kristen Dahlgren has more on the change in the air.
Hey, good morning, Joe and Savannah. Yeah, not a big surprise that this is a bad allergy season for anyone who is suffering. A lot of people getting outside, taking off those masks, and then all of a sudden, achoo, the allergies hit in force. But scientists tell me this is actually a long time in the making.
While many are welcoming a return to the outdoors, for others, it also marks the return of seasonal allergies.
My eyes have been really watery, stuffy, runny nose, headaches, pressure here and here.
It's been feeling different this year for some reason.
Allergists are noticing it too. Appointments filling up fast.
I think my first available is September or October.
Dr. Rita Kotru blames a combination of factors.
Now that people are opening up and they're taking their mask off, we're definitely seeing an increase in pollen allergy.
Researchers found pollen season became 20 days longer between 1990 and 2018, and pollen counts were up more than 20%.
Climate change was the biggest driver of seasons getting longer and a substantial driver of seasons getting worse with more pollen in the air.
Increasing temperatures mean plants starting their growing season earlier and making more pollen. Doctors recommend keeping windows closed at night, rinsing your face and hair, and changing clothes after being outside. And if your doctor recommends it, take medications before symptoms start. You can always hang on to your mask if pollen counts are high. A few steps to make sure you're not stuck inside all season.
So there are a lot of ways that you can help to alleviate allergies, but scientists say we also need to address climate change, or we are in for a lot more of this. The pollen spreading into more places as the planet warms up, and much longer allergy seasons ahead if nothing is done. Joe and Savannah?
Now to our series, Kids Under Pressure and a Crisis Within the Pandemic Impacting So Many Young People, the rise in eating disorders. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk has more.
Hey there, Joe and Savannah. We are only just beginning to understand the mental health implications of the last year and a half. And one of the alarming things that doctors have seen over that period of time is an increase in the number of eating disorders.
Isolated in a room because of COVID, with no school and unable to see friends, 16-year-old Chloe Melton's eating disorder went from bad to dangerous.
I was in a controlled environment, which the eating disorder thrives in. I was able to make all of my meals. I would isolate in my room. I was eating dinner at 2 o'clock.
Why were you eating dinner at 2 o'clock?
Intermittent fasting. The internet told me that that was healthier.
The weight dropped fast, slowing her heart to under 40 beats per minute.
Was it easy in those moments not to feel bad about the behavior because you didn't have anyone looking at it?
Yeah, definitely. There were things I definitely knew I wasn't supposed to be doing that I did because I was by myself.
3 months into the pandemic, Chloe was diagnosed with anorexia and ended up in an Atlanta hospital. At that same time, patients just like Chloe were also flooding Boston Children's Hospital.
Typically, we would see 3 to 4 patients with eating disorders on our inpatient service. Post-pandemic, we were routinely over 10 and getting as many as 15 or 16.
That's 3, 4, 5 times the number of patients that you normally see.
Absolutely. And I would say it's not just the volume, but the complexity and the severity.
Dr. Tracy Richmond is the director of the Eating Disorders Program at Boston Children's.
I'd say a picture is worth 1,000 words here.
It's also heartbreaking.
Absolutely. I mean, these are kids who should not be in a medical hospital setting. They should be at home and in school and thriving.
Dr. Richmond reached out to 8 other hospitals in the country and found a similar surge in severe eating disorder cases, patient numbers doubling.
We're seeing kids from all sorts of racial and ethnic backgrounds, all sorts of socioeconomic backgrounds.
We are coming out of this pandemic. People are taking off masks. Kids are back in school. Is this going to get better for you?
You know, I really worry about this next wave, to be honest. I've had some patients who've told me they're really hesitant to go back. We're going to see some ramifications for a long time in our adolescents' mental health.
Chloe says she struggles every day, but she hopes her recovery might help someone else.
It's scary. It never gets less scary until you keep doing it. And it's so worth it.
The eating disorder numbers really tell a larger story about mental health after this pandemic. The doctor I spoke with at Boston Children's Hospital describes the children's mental health illnesses triggered by isolation and school closures as a second pandemic. Joe and Savannah?
It's time for our CNBC Money Minute, the biggest financial headlines of the day and why they matter to you.
Christina Partsinevelos joins us again today. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning. Good to be back.
Good to have you.
Sorry?
I'm going to get straight into it because we cut each other off, but more than 180,000 people have signed petitions urging Facebook to scrap plans for a version of Instagram for kids. The petitions were created by nonprofit and grassroots organizations who claim it would be unsuitable for children under 13. They tell USA Today they plan to submit the petitions to Facebook ahead of the company's shareholders meeting tomorrow. Facebook spokesperson says the company has just started exploring a kids version of Instagram and agrees any product must make privacy and safety a priority. Square is reportedly planning to roll out business savings and checking accounts. Code is the latest update to the Square app, and it refers to both types of accounts, which would possibly also link to Square's business debit card. The company doesn't appear to be planning a monthly service fee or overdraft charges. At the moment, though, Square isn't commenting on this new addition. And last but not least, Amazon seems to be at it again. Sources say the tech giant is nearing a deal to buy MGM Studios for about $9 billion, and it could be announced as soon as today. MGM is the home of James Bond and Rocky franchises, as well as a huge library of TV shows and movies. This, though, would mark Amazon's largest purchase since it paid nearly $14 billion for Whole Foods back in 2017. Yeah. 14 billion, 17 billion, 20 billion. What's that to Amazon these days, right?
Yeah, no kidding. It's just a little pocket change for MGM there.
For Amazon or Bezos himself. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
The unofficial start of summer is about a week away, but a lifeguard shortage may threaten the opening of many swimming pools across the country. NBC's Carrie Sanders joins us now from Riviera Beach, Florida. Hey, Carrie, in the water, good morning.
Good morning. Well, look, if your holiday plans are to come to a water park like this, go to the seashore, maybe a community pool, go to a lake, you might want to double check to make sure everything is indeed open, because just like restaurants that are having difficulty hiring servers, there is a severe lifeguard shortage this year.
Lifeguards save lives on the scene in a matter of moments.
He's drowning right now. We need somebody now.
Sobering calls like that are why the nationwide post-pandemic party may not include a splash in the pool. The problem? Not enough lifeguards.
Right now, we are trying to do everything that we can to facilitate the lifeguards that we need for our aquatic center.
The Lincoln Park Aquatic Center in Marion, Ohio will not open Memorial Day weekend. Mayor Scott Schertzer blames the pandemic.
In the state of Ohio, your lifeguard certification is good for 2 years. So if you worked for us in 2019 and then we were not open last year because of the pandemic, then your certification has expired.
There are similar shortages across the country, but for different reasons. In Milwaukee, Jim Tarantino says in a good year, the county hires 200. This year, they have only 50.
So typically we would have 9 pools, 2 water parks, and one of the major beaches along Lake Michigan. We do not have the staff to guard Lake Michigan, and we only have enough staff to guard 4 pools.
Some pools that won't open this year, he says, are in underprivileged communities, creating a long-term vicious cycle.
And we might be able to get 20, 30 people recruited into a training session, and only 1 or 2 of them can pass the swim test.
In Williamsburg, Tennessee, the county pool will open by Saturday, but with limited hours.
We're about 35 guards short of a full staffing structure that would allow us to operate our pools full tilt.
Good job. Next 4. At Lifeguard Training New York, they say they've already trained 1,000 people this year. Hannah Newbert is getting certified this week.
So this year I decided to become a lifeguard because I really need the money, especially after the tough year we've had.
3 years ago, they were getting $13, $14 an hour. Now camps are paying $17, $25, $18, $20, $25 an hour per lifeguard.
At Rapid Waters Park in Riviera Beach, Florida, 170 lifeguards on staff for the season. In about a week, they hope to hire even more.
And they believe they'll be able to hire up to 250 people here at the park because school lets out a little bit later than normal. And they've also done something else, what you heard. They're raising the wages, the hourly wages. One of the things to note is so many swimming pools and other places where lifeguards work are often staffed with folks who come to this country on what are known as J-1 visas. They come from overseas. They get a chance to work here and enjoy a little of the United States. But because of the pandemic, those J-1 visas were not exercised, meaning people couldn't come here. And so it all has led to a bottleneck of a shortage here. So if you're going to the pool this weekend or wherever you're going for the holiday weekend, just make sure that there is not only a lifeguard there, but it's even open, guys.
All right. Good advice. Carrie, you hitting the slides in a bit?
Yes, I should.
All right, Carrie, we missed your rubber ducky, by the way.
Thanks, Carrie.